Myself, Rainu Gupta, Professor in Education, Sanskriti University, Mathura. As all of us know that assessment is a very great concept because in the life, everywhere we are to assess ourselves, we are to assess the other people. So that is why assessment is a very useful concept. So well students, today we will learn about assessment, its types of assessment and how can we assess the students in different types of assessment. So first of all, what we mean by assessment. As you know, it is a term, it refers to the variety of methods. As I have already told you that there are different methods of assessing the student. So it is a variety of methods or tools that educators use to evaluate, because assessment does different things: evaluate, measure and document the academic readiness, learning progress, skill acquisition or educational needs of student. So with the help of this definition, you can very well understand that how much effective the assessment is, because it is to evaluate. It means evaluation is including the value judgment as well as the promotion of the student. So it means with the help of the assessment, we evaluate the student that what type of knowledge, what type of skills they are having. We measure the student in the quantitative. Evaluation will be in the quantitative form as well as in the qualitative form. But assessment also helps in the measurement. Measurement is one aspect of the evaluation, because measurement includes only the quantitative aspect. As every year we see that students are getting, this student is getting 70%, this is getting 90%, this is getting 84%, this is getting 93%. So all this we termed as the measurement. We assess the student in the terms of the quantity and document the academic readiness, okay, how the student is ready to academic progress. We can say that from the first to second, second to third, third to fourth, fourth to fifth. So assessment helps in maintaining the document of the academic readiness and then learning progress. How the student is going from primary to elementary, elementary to secondary, secondary to senior secondary, senior secondary to graduation, graduation to post graduation. It means every time the assessment helps in getting the knowledge about the learning progress of the students. Then skill acquisition, what type of skills they are having, that when the students are getting the skill related to the TV repairing, after assessment we provide them the certificate that now he is proficient in the repairing of TV. So it means the skill acquisition is also assessed by different tools or the educational needs of the students. As we can adopt the diagnostic measures. With the help of the diagnostic measures, we find that what type of educational needs are there of the students which are getting the educational qualification, whether they need the physical abilities, whether they need the mental abilities, whether they need the emotional abilities, whether they need the skill acquisition, or whether they need the much we can say periods in the field of physics, they need extra period in the field of mathematics, they need extra period in the field of chemistry. So it means the educational needs, or what type of, they need the mathematical acquisition, they need the theoretical acquisition, they need the practical acquisition. So all type of educational needs are to be assessed with the help of the tools. And with the assessment, we make some columns that for related with different skills, different academic environment, different subjects. Here you can see that in some we are making the mark of right, and in some we are making the mark of star. So what do you mean by star? So it means here the students are achieving the proficiency, but the right, here the students are only getting the certificate. So it means with the help of this type of table, we can very well evaluate that what type of abilities the student is having. So it means that assessment is a very, very useful concept with which we are to apply different types of tools. Now comes the question, when assessment is so much important, so assessment can be of different types. We can't apply one type of assessment on each and every student every time, because in 2001, CBSE introduced the Continuous and Comprehensive Evaluation System, CCE system. So CCE system was introduced. Why? Because when the student is assessed only after the completion of 1 year and he or she is not able to appear in the examination due to some unavoidable circumstances, then he will be termed as fail. And after fail, he is to repeat that class. So it creates harassment among the students. So that is why CCE was introduced by the CBSE, because at the 10th and the plus 2 level, many suicidal cases were there. So that is why different types of assessments were introduced by different boards, whether it may be the state board, whether it may be CBSE, whether it may be NCRT, or whether it may be the at the college level, UGC level. So every type has different assessment. The main two types are there, that is formative assessment and summative assessment. As the name indicates, formative assessment, it means here what we mean, that we are to form the student, we are to excel the student, we are to bring improvement among the student. That is why it is called formative assessment. We are forming the student, we are progressing the student at different levels. Suppose after 1 month, one formative assessment is there. According to that, we can see, we can judge that whether the student is able to receive that much subject matter which the teacher has already taught, or whether there is any lacuna. So accordingly, we can change our methodology, we can change our skills, we can change our system, and we can change the classroom environment, we can change the discussion method. So it means here the student's assessment is form. We are forming the student, we are changing the behavior of the student, we are understanding that what type of abilities the student is having. Summative, as the name indicates, sum. Here summative means that in total, what is the assessment of the student throughout the year. So it means the formative assessment, we can call it assessment for learning also, because here the student is to learn on the basis of the assessment, and then there is progress of the learning after every formative assessment. That is why the CBSE has introduced F1, F2, that formative assessment 1, formative assessment 2, so that the students may be capable to receive the subject matter fruitfully, as well as the teachers can judge the students' achievement. But the summative assessment is the sum of F1, F2 and the end semester or end of the year examination. So it means on the basis of the whole evaluation, we can assess the student summatively. And after the summative assessment, then after the formative assessment, there is no, we can say, the promotion of the student from the next class. It is only for the form. But after the summative assessment, the student is to promote from one class to the other class. So it means there are much differences, and summative assessment, the name of the other summative assessment is assessment of learning. So you can very well understand what is the difference between assessment for learning. There is difference of one word is only, assessment for learning and assessment of learning. So it means assessment of learning is also important, but the much important is the formative assessment or assessment for learning. Now, what is the process of formative assessment? In the formative assessment, what it generates timely student achievement information. As I was telling you that after 1 month, after 2 months, what type of plan we have done, that after the 2 months we can say that we can assess the student, that is timely student achievement. After 2 months, what type of achievement the students have got. Then on this basis of achievement, we monitor. What we monitor? The teacher is monitoring the individual student progress, that what type of learning he is getting, and on the basis of that, it means what the teacher is doing. Teacher is doing the assessment of instructional effectiveness also, that how the teacher is teaching to the class, the students are learning effectively or not. If the students are not learning effectively, it means it is addressed by modifying instruction. So it means here the teacher will modify his instruction according to the needs of the student. The second is, that is reteaching. If here we can say the teacher will think that the students are not able to learn, it means then he is to reteach that topic. So it means the instructional effectiveness can be described in two ways, the whether the modified or whether reteach. Here the progress of the student is concerned. Progress of the student is also concerned in terms of two parts. What students did or did not learn. As here I have already told you that here the achievement of the student is judged with the help of the formative assessment. Suppose F1 is there. On the basis of that, we can check that what students learn and what student did not learn. Okay, what they have already learned and what they are not learning as the effect of their understanding level, as the effect of the instruction of the teacher, as the effect of interest in the subject matter, as the effect of learning environment of the school, learning environment of the class. There are many factors responsible for that. And the second part is what students can or cannot do. So it means it is related with this. Here what student did. What student did, it means on the basis of this, the teacher can identify what students can. So it means accordingly he will plan for the F2. The second part is the student did not learn. So on the basis of this, as a result of this, they cannot do. So it means on the basis of this, they can understand that what type of abilities the students are having and what the students can and what the students cannot do. So it means formative assessment is to understand the assessment of the students timely. That is assessment for learning. Accordingly, the teacher can change its methodology. Here, formative assessment cycle is there. How this cycle works? First, we can say examine student work. After the completion of the formative one, it means here we are examining the student work, that what they have learned, what they have not learned. Then also it inform teacher knowledge, that what type of knowledge the teacher is having, what type of knowledge the teacher is transferring to the students. So it means here the teacher qualities we can know on the basis of the formative assessment. Then inform instruction. So what type of, here the knowledge is assessed of the teacher, not only of the students, here the knowledge is assessed of the teacher also, and accordingly we can assess the instructional level, instructional procedure, instructional methodology of the teacher, that what type of information the teacher is giving on the basis of their instruction. So that is why now the government as well as the education policies has termed that our education system should not be teacher oriented, our education system should be learner oriented, because the main target is to improve the learning of the student. So that is why the main target is not providing the instructions, not to give the instructions. The main target is to get the learning improved of the student. So then on the basis of that, administer task. We provide the task to the student, we provide the task to the teacher. So here the administrative work is there, that what type of task he is giving to the student. So in this way the formative assessment cycle will work. It means here both remain active, teacher remain also active as well as the students also remain active. So that is why formative assessment is very important part. If the formative assessment is good, the students summative assessment will also be good. If the formative assessment is not good, then there will be lacuna in the summative assessment. That is why summative assessment depends upon the formative assessment. Here you can see, you can understand with the help of this circle that formative assessment, what the formative assessment is doing. Formative assessment builds real learning. For what? For the real world. So it means formative assessment tells that what type of real learning the students are getting on the basis of their learning process, on the basis of learning styles, on the basis of attentiveness in the class. So it means they are real learning. But why they are learning? They are learning for the real world, because they are to utilize that learning in the world. So formative assessment includes diagnostic. As I have already told you that diagnostic testing is the part and parcel of formative assessment, is a range of formal and informal assessment procedure. We can't say that every formative assessment is termed as the theoretical examination. Formative assessment can be the formal in the form of terminal examination, in the form of theory examination, in the form of practical examination. It can be in the form of informal assessment also. Now the question arises in your mind, how the informal assessment will be there in the formative assessment? Informal assessment, when the teacher is teaching in the class, in between he or she asks some questions from the students. It is also the part of the formative assessment, that when the teacher is teaching in the class, so he can assess that whether the students are able to learn that subject matter or not. If the students are playing in the garden, in the corridor or in the playground, the teacher can observe that what type of behavior they are showing while playing in the playground. So that will be the informal assessment procedure. So it means the formative assessment does not mean that every time we are to make some formal procedure. We can opt the informal procedure by the teacher during the learning process. And what is the purpose of formative assessment? That is the modifying teaching and learning activities. So it means modifying teaching activities will be the responsibility of the teacher, and modifying learning activities will be the responsibility of the student. So that is why the assessment is the part and parcel of the interaction between the teacher and the student. So in this way we can say the formative assessment deals with the real learning of the student. So formative assessment can be during the course, not at the end. As I was discussing that many formative assessment we can make during the year, F1, F2, F3, F4. How many formative assessment the teacher wants to do, he or she can manage. It is a form of two-way communication. How it is a two-way communication? Because two persons are included in this. Students are included, and the other hand the instructor is included. So it means it is a two-way communication. How we can say that two-way communication? The student here in the summative assessment, teacher is assessing the student. Here we can say the students are assessing the teachers also, that what type of methodology, whether the effective methodology is to be opted by the teacher or not. So it means it is the part of the learning of the student. If the students are not able to grasp that subject matter, they can ask again and again to the teacher that we are not able to understand this subject matter, please repeat it. So it means it is the direct interaction between the teacher and the student. Teacher is evaluating, assessing the student, and students are assessing, monitoring the teachers also. So it means during the process, the students can assess the teacher also. So it means it helps instructor differentiate instruction and thus improve student achievement. So teacher can evaluate, and on the other hand, students can evaluate that whether that teacher is teaching that subject, in that subject the students are getting more learning, or the first teacher is teaching one section and the students are getting more learning. So it means it can be done using individual, partner, small group, or whole class models. Teacher can assess the individual student also individually in the class. Teacher can assess a small group. Suppose teacher is adopting the methodology of project method. During the project method, he can divide the class in different small groups and assign one project to each group. So when after the completion of that project, it means the teacher is assessing not the individual partner, teacher is assessing on the basis of the group. So it means individually he can assess, in the small group he can assess, or the whole class. If he is giving the quiz to the whole class, so it means he is assessing the whole class modes. So that is why the formative assessment can be done individually, can be done in the small groups, can be done in the whole class. So in this way, these are the features of the formative assessment, that one is it is a two-way communication between the teacher and the student. Second is it can be in different forms, in the single form, in this group form, in the whole class form. Then the third is it is the support during the process of learning. There are other features also of the formative assessment. These are, they require students to take the responsibility of their own learning. Sometimes the students are getting less marks. If the parents will ask why you are getting the less marks, so some students will say it is not my fault, it is the fault of the teacher. Here it doesn't mean. In the assessment for learning and in the assessment as learning, here the students are to take the responsibility. If the students are not able to grasp that subject matter, they are to ask again and again from the teacher that they are not able to understand, please change your methodology, or we can say that we need some extra time to understand this. So it means they are responsible at their own, that this is my learning, this is my effort, this is the result of my efforts. Communicates clear specific learning goals. Here the learning goals are clear cut. We can say what will be the learning goals, that this subject matter during these 2 months, during this 1 month, this subject matter will be covered by the students and the instructor. So it means the specific learning goals are very clear cut, that how much learning we are to take after the completion of F1. Then focus on goals that represent valuable educational outcomes. As in 2016, UGC has introduced that education should be outcome based. Why it should be outcome based? If there is no outcome of the education, after getting the education, students are learning nothing. So it means there is wastage of time, money and energy. So that is why education system says that our education system should be based on outcome, and these outcomes should be assessed by the teacher, by the students, by the administrators. So it means that the valuable educational outcomes with applicability Because if these learning outcomes are not applicable in real life, as in the previous slide we have learned that assessment, formative assessment is uh, correlated with the real knowledge. So it means if it is not applicable, suppose we take the example of education, when the students are doing B.ed and what type of methodology they are learning during their training period, during their education period, and those teaching methodologies they are not able to apply when they will go to the schools or when they will become the teachers. So it means what they have learned during their pre-service training period, it has no applicability. So it means there is no use of teaching those teaching methodologies during the training period. So those educational outcomes should be applicable also. It identifies the students' current knowledge, skills, and the necessary steps for teaching reaching the desired goals. So it means the formative assessment identifies that what type of knowledge or skills at the time of formative assessment they are having, and what are our goals for the next formative assessment too, and how these learning goals can be achieved. Accordingly the teacher and students will plan. So it means they are providing the information about the current status as well as the future process for achieving the desired goals. It requires development of plans for attaining the desired goals. As I have already told you that on the basis of achievement, on the basis of assessment in F1, the teacher is planning that what type of methodology he is to opt in F2. Student will plan what type of teaching, what type of learning styles, what type of study habits they are to opt to improve their learning. So it means what type of planning they are to do so that in the F2 they can achieve the desired goals. So this type of planning depends upon the formative assessment. It also encourages student to self-monitor progress. Suppose in the F1, the student is getting 65% marks. Now the student can set the goal that in the F2, I am to improve myself because they are the owner of their learning. So if I am to improve my assessment in F2, it means I am to change my study habits, I am to change my learning style, I am to remain attentive in the class, I am to remain regular in the class. So such type of self-monitoring progress is associated with the formative assessment. So it means the students is encouraged to monitor himself, because self-evaluation is the best evaluation. Nobody can evaluate us. The person in front of us can evaluate only the knowledge which we are expressing. But what we are in real terms, that is the self-evaluation. So formative assessment helps in encouraging the student to self-monitor that what type of progress they are having. It provides examples of learning goals, including, when relevant, the specific grading criteria, rubrics that will be used to evaluate the students' work. Because nowadays, these are the, we can say, current techniques of evaluating, assessing the student, rubrics. In rubrics, there is progress from one point to the second point, second to the third point, third to the fourth point, fourth to the fifth point. So it means the learning goals are there. So they are providing the example that in the first point, this you are to achieve. If the students are able to achieve, then they will go to the second point, that this is the lacuna, this we will achieve in the second part. Then we will then we are to reach up to the fifth part. So it means the formative assessment is very, very important, and in this the students are owning their own learning, and teachers are to change their methodology. Teachers are to assess the learning needs of the student so that they may change their teaching style according to the needs of the student. Thank you.